hogged the spotlight with its current and future slate of exclusives.
It looks a lot like this is a direct sequel, like the voice.
Er hat eine ferngesteuerte Drohne und einen eingebauten Bewegungsmelder.
Wer Japan mag, sollte einen Blick auf Lost Judgment werfen.
It's accessible and easy to play when you're just in it for the victory and gore.
Als letzte Hoffnung der Menschheit müsst ihr Maschinen in Chaos machen, die die Welt erobert haben.
Anyway, yeah, I've been waiting for this thing to release for...
Next up, I do want to cover a couple Nintendo Switch releases and PC.
Als Microsoft im Jahre 2009 die Ensemble-Studios dicht gemacht hat, betrauert...
Today's video is sponsored by HelloFresh. I'm sure you've heard of this before. It's the service that delivers ready-to-cook meals to your doorstep. They recently sent me a meal. I got this sauce.
Der Typ, der diese vermeintliche Karte von GTA 6 veröffentlichte, soll etwa ein ehemaliger
At number 6 is Final Fantasy XIV and...
Ursprünglich hatten die Schöpfer der Reihe nämlich vor, die Reise durch die Menschheitsgeschichte mit dem 4. Teil.
The Blind Forest felt like magic when played for the first time.
At number 19 is Samurai Warriors 5, which is a bit of return to the root.
MK11 hits all the right spots for casual and veteran.
Good things to know about that. One of the games is a GOG Redemption, and it's the top game in Control Ultimate Edition.
Been a few years since we've seen each other. Maybe time for a visit.
You keep this kind of thing up.
Tunche ist ein klassisches 2D-Beat'em-up mit...
Continuing on with the Final Fantasy XIV narrative is a great idea because, frankly, it's a great and fun...
And also include various collectibles and loot to get, which plays into the game's weapon and armor crafting. This game definitely...
Bevor wir aber in unsere Top 10 starten, müssen wir erstmal klären, wie man an die Spiele überhaupt kommt. Mit der Protovision Heimcomputer GmbH bietet eine deutsche Firma Frischfleisch.
Definitive Edition. This game takes you, the protagonist Tommy Angelo, and drops you in.
Aber was genau wird denn jetzt gespielt? Kommen wir also mal zu den...
The core idea is still there and it's executed quite.
It also boasted terrific gameplay, ingeniously using physics puzzles as centerpieces for almost everything.
Yasna, speak to me!
He's looking for this. He's...
You... What have you...
It's been a while since I've touched anything racing based, but I could see myself enjoying this. And yes, like always with
Zuma's Revenge, and then add Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play into the...
Könnt ihr euch Gadgets, Autos und Panzer auch bequem per...
Yes, they'll support 128 player games, while the PS4 and Xbox One versions are only going to support 64 players.
As these monsters have risen from up underground and...
Is a nod to Hulk number 181, the first full appearance...
The game's not necessarily filled with a ton of dialogue, but it's still off.
Despite the rise of live service and multiplayer...
These choices lead to 3 different endings with other versions of the...
Schon bei Lazy Jones von 1984 konnten C4...
Next on our list is Book of Travels. I've talked about this a few times in the past, but let me give you guys a recap. This is an atmospheric online RPG.
We were sold. It's still in early access, but those of us who
Here we go again. Sony have revealed the PS Plus.
Die PS Plus Spiele in diesem Monat sind mal etwas...
Horizon Zero Dawn. That's the next one. This one made it to...
All right, let's get moving.
Playground Games' open world racing series makes a hard, and we got a ton of cool stuff we were not.
I really think that's about to change. I think we're going to see a lot more
and relaxing for me in just swinging around New York.
Trapped.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for visiting, and we hope you enjoyed the show.
And just good luck with the rest of the game. They take that momentum and it just bleeds straight into the third game. The third game, I love it, and it's honestly comparable, if not equal to the...
We've made loads of videos about how good it is for you and how...
Neben der Grafik wurde dabei vor allem die Steuerung überarbeitet, denn das Original ist älter als die meisten Standards für First-Person...
Obviously, the string of games that came before it are very good.
We'll be doing this in order of release date, so don't get mad at me if your favorite game wasn't at the top or the bottom of the list or wherever the hell, it doesn't matter.
Am 4. November startet die Kochsimulation Recipe for Disaster in den Early Access.
That view. It made the climb worth already.
So you're on top.
Scavengers has crafting and looting aspects involved to enhance your research levels, so the standard upgrade your weapons and characters affair.
You've really led us into the middle class.
Wann und wo immer GTA 6 aber auch spielen wird, es soll vom Umfang her deutlich kleiner.
Xbox One, PS4, PS5, and PC.
So let's take a look at the biggest games coming to PlayStation 5 in 2021.
15th place is Ghost of Tsushima, one of the PlayStation 4's final.
Some games that I would like to see, Gravity Rush 2, of course, Infamous Second Son. I'm throwing out some titles that, you know, might be...
To House of Ashes when it lands on the PlayStation's DX. And number 9 is Metroid Dread, a game that was like semi-teased as a joke a long time ago. Metroid Dread.
We're gonna be with you in a minute. Oh, come on.
And class-based PvP. You start by choosing from a roster of...
As well as, with the last few Pokemon games, the mechanics that have been refined and brought into a...
Er könne das alles weder dementieren noch bestätigen, erklärte er augenzwinkernd auf.
And it's really interesting that there's a family here instead of just...
This list might convince you to pick one up.
And it's set to release in the first half of 2021 as a PlayStation 5 exclusive.
But you usually don't see it for 75% off, so $9.99 is like the best.
Die sie jederzeit zusammenpacken und an einen anderen Ort verfrachten.
Amount of games, and they changed it from 44 to 48, and now it's all the way up to 50. Now,
And it also has a new expanded statistics system, which allows you to compare scores with other.
Neben neuen Autos sollen auch ein verbesserter Multiplayer-Modus und veränderte Erfahrungspunkte.
Now, next over at number 4, we have Cyberpunk 2077, the big...
Schade, dass es nur 6 Games ins Spiel geschafft haben und nicht 18 komplett unterschiedliche Autos.
It did something that a lot of us didn't expect to see until next generation, and so
fantastic, really. It's a great first-person shooter, usually known for good level design, and some of the ideas sound like interesting modes in terms of...
All 3 games have been remastered, but retain...
A lot of the combat and stuff actually is pretty good.
The solo, and I had a great time with it. Obviously, the comedy is great. The story is...
I will say, though, that I don't think that you necessarily have to be a Star Wars fan to enjoy this.
Freebies if you have Amazon Prime, and there are some very...
It's time to explore unknown horizons with the best single-player game.
Look at the visuals for this game. It is incredible looking. It is ray tracing enabled, and just look what the cars... The visuals on the cars are insane. Like
the definitive edition. It's been 20 years since GTA 3 opened our minds to the potential of a...
Hello and welcome to PlayStation Access and
Coming into number 22 is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Before we get tortured,
it's up to Task Force 1 to stop him before Project Phoenix can be...
Do redeem on Amazon's own platform, but we'll talk about that very, very nice.
Halo Combat Evolved remains one of the biggest launch titles for any console. The game builds its entire identity around its combat, which is tight, mechanically complex, and demands mass.
13th place is Horizon Zero Dawn. One of the first PlayStation 4 exclusives, Zero Dawn is a great single-player story and perfect for...
I just think so highly of Asylum and City, but Arkham Knight is very good as...
An attempt basically to say, hey, we get what was wrong with Marvel's The Avengers.
Cool, it was absolutely worth a mention. So the Dark Pictures...
Next up, we have Rise of Humanity, a tactical turn-based deck-building game set in the future where an AI...
3rd place is The Last of Us Remastered. Another Naughty Dog game, this dystopian...
And with the return of GT Simulation Career Mode, you'll have ample opportunities to test all this out when Gran Turismo 7 parks up on...
To the sprawling Axeverse of Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
For multiplayer, there will be 20 maps available at launch and new modes.
Former MI5. Duty never ends.
In Life is Strange True Colors lernen wir eine neue...
Hey game lover, isn't Elvin here? Welcome to Now Gaming Time.
November is coming up fast and a lot of new games are landing. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, new games that deserve your attention in November 2021.
Next up, we have Demon Turf, which will be available on like literally every platform, but if you are a fan of
play in real time, it's an adventure and a story you experience with...
It truly captured the whole Wild West feel we've we've been seeing on TV, and it gave us a heartbreaking story we could shed a tear to. Cheers to our brothers Arthur Morgan and John Marston.
It was a phenomenon at the time, which many people watching this right now have never played. It's the
Forza Horizon 5 looks cool. Next up, we've got this game called Breakwaters, a really unique looking...
Is beautiful and fun and worthwhile to
Solltet ihr noch mit ein wenig Vorsicht genießen an ihnen.
If you like Control, I would check those ones out as well.
It gave life to the dwindling quality of Sonic games in recent...
Über Wohnhäuser steigern wir unsere Bevölkerungsgrenze und in Spezialgebäuden wie in Battlefield 2042 wird das zwar auch noch nahegelegt, aber...
Yes, they'll support 128-player games, while the PS4 and Xbox One
From everything that I've seen and heard. The next game is Lemnis Gate, which offers this unique mix of FPS combat and turn-based strategy where you'll need to master the abilities on that formula. Last year, I briefly played and enjoyed my time with Kingmaker, so hopefully they're able to deliver here on the sequel. Pathfinder Wrath.
Standing at the top of first place is Persona 5 Royal. Nobody.
At number 7 is the Dark Pictures anthology House of Ashes.
Hi guys, welcome to Heavy Game Section YouTube channel. This is top.
How shiny is that car bonnet? They come none shinier than Gran Turismo 7's thanks to 4K support and ray tracing that accurately
ties into the Dark Aether story with new abilities.
The fact that it has increased, that probably means more PlayStation games.
Set in a fascinating and richly detailed world with an engaging...
Only last week, a trilogy of games was revealed to be releasing in November. Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy.
On the way, it replicates the feeling of being in a tabletop.
It kinda reminds me of the PS5 Epic Games demo and seems to be the sign that next gen really truly is here. We play as Frey, a young woman on the streets of New York.
Ah, Hitman, helping bald men feel...
The third-person games you need to check out in 2021. Starting with number 20, it's the Dark Pictures anthology House of Ashes.
14, this will get you 14 free meals as well.
Through both guerrilla warfare and protest in the streets of Yar's capital.
Konkrete Details verrät Henderson nicht, lässt lediglich
of Xbox E3 2021. Starting off with number 10, we have Forza Horizon 5. Now, we're just gonna basically dive...
Das Heilige Römische Reich kann zum Beispiel mit dem Landsknecht eine dritte Infanterie...
Which is a mouthful, but it makes sense because it is a remake of Diamond and Pearl for third-person games, and there's still quite a few good ones on their way.
New additions could be God of War as well as...
So there is replayability past the zombie culling. A quick note that on release, Saints and Sinners only worked with the Move controllers and not the DualSense. And the average score was 8 out of 10.
Microsoft would continue to build with all future
tiny game, whatever that ends up meaning. Moving on, next up.
Now, obviously, FIFA is one of the longest running series in video games, and for the most part, we know what to expect with FIFA.
But Xbox has its own range of graphically impressive...
Und passt das neue Herrchen überhaupt zur Persönlichkeit des Hundes?
This does seem to be more of like a casual, relaxing game where you're not gonna have to think about it you know, for too much from a hardcore standpoint, but it looks like a pretty...
And they have mostly made mobile games from everything that I could see. I could not find any other PC titles that they have developed. This appears to be their first attempt.
And then GTA San Andreas brought us to LA in the 90s, on the cusp of gang wars and the evolution. You're likely getting sick of the repeated video clip now, so the last thing to know about KOTOR Remake is it's coming...
I mean, these games are really among the best games, it seems like.
Mysteries and adventure games like that, detective adventure games. This is probably going to be something right up your alley.
And although this got delayed a year thanks to the pandemic,
to be frank, it has some problems in regards to pay to...
Many of them, like Fable and State of Decay 3.
That draws people in right away from that standpoint. Again, you have 5 unique characters, and you'll have to overcome the evil beasts of the Amazonian forest. You'll have to learn skills and the ultimate abilities.
Well, nothing worthwhile. Come on, let's keep going.
You got Sea of Thieves, you got Skyrim, you got Wolfenstein.
Medic-Spezialist mit Snipergewehr, Bewegungsmelder und Munition.
Das berühmte Autofestival verschlägt es in Forza Horizon.
If you do want to pick up the premium edition, wait for that to go on sale, and by all means pick that up. You'll
You'll be able to plonk your head in the sorting hat, join a house of your choosing. I mean, I'm gonna be a Slytherin, but a nice Slytherin, and attend lessons.
A PC gamer's game, so it is very much for a specific type of player. Don't expect like open world Skyrim with dinosaurs.
Perfectly portioned for your meal, so you're not buying like an entire.
Ballert ihr nur genug auf die Rakete, während sie mit runtergelassenen Hosen dasteht, fliegt sie zur Startsequenz.
There's also text chat and emotes for those who don't like you.
Yes, I know, when you think of Borderlands, you ideally want to play the game with friends, but it's still fine if you're playing by yourself.
How you explore, what you discover, and enjoying the world for.
Continuing on with the Final Fantasy XIV narrative is a great idea.
Denn da klingt ein Release 2021 gar nicht mehr so sicher wie
Es gilt, alle Automaten zu bezwingen, wobei es sich um Adaptionen der Klassiker Space Invaders, Pac-Man.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video. Want to give you guys a heads up on the Prime Gaming.
Just look at it. The art style, the humor, the amount of guns on offer. This is a Borderlands game in everything but net.
It's in pretty good shape for something several hundred years.
The story, although quite linear, allows for some on-the-fly decision-making, which are genuinely tough to make, and
the past several years have been extremely good for single-player titles.